Karachi, Then and Now by Hilda Saeed. The 1940s. Childhood memories of Karachi. The roads were washed each night, a necessity for what was considered the cleanest city in Asia. Of lots of camels and horses and ghoda garis, victorias and little donkey carts. Of animals looked after well, with water troughs for them, and a large animal hospital. Of a Karachi that had grown fast from a little fishing village. It was named after an outstanding woman, Mai Kolachi, of a cultural richness that I miss today. My parents came here from Vadodara in Gujarat, India, when I was just 11 months old. I've grown up here and seen this city through its many avatars. Karachi was lively with its mix of Hindus, Parsis, Christians, Jews, and Muslims. We loved all the festivities, especially Diwali and Holi. At Dasera and Muharram, we would follow the processions. All of that was so exciting to us kids. My parents had a cosmopolitan group of friends. With them, we went to a Parsi Navjoti ceremony or a wedding and celebrated Navroz with Parsi friends. And of course, enjoyed mithai and semia at Eid. I still remember visits to the Swami Narayan Mandir and the temple by the sea. And Christmas. We went quite mad with excitement each year, decorating the tree, putting up nativity plays and carol singing. Sundays meant picnics after church, boating and fishing, or enjoying the greenery in Malir, or spending the day at beaches in Clifton, Manora, Hawke's Bay, or Sandspit. Once we had a memorable trip to Mangopir, just a drive away from central Karachi, an ancient settlement of the descendants of African and Arab tribes. They cared immensely for crocodiles, feasting them and garlanding them on special occasions. Their music and dancing was fascinating, wonderfully catchy with its African beat. Most of all, we kids were safe. Our elders didn't have to keep worrying about where we were. We could happily spend hours playing with neighbors who lived nearby or friends across the road. Going to school was so different, traveling by ghoda gari or tram. The struggle for independence. Vaguely, we were aware that huge meetings were taking place at Khalikdina Hall, not far from where we lived, the historical spot where several political meetings were held. I believe Mr. Jinnah also came there. Our neighbors and friends began to leave for India. My father was given the option at work, India or Pakistan. He chose Pakistan, believing in Mr. Jinnah's words for non-Muslims in his speech to the Constituent Assembly on 11th August 1947. Soon the cityscape began changing. Schools were sometimes closed. There was difficulty in stepping out, or there was a curfew. Later, I learned how terrible the upheaval of the partition of the subcontinent into India and Pakistan had been. Even so, Karachi wasn't as bad as many other places. Reports came in mind of the tumult in Punjab. Gradually, a semblance of normality began to return. The city became more crowded. We learned a new word, refugees. Some refugees encamped just outside our house on the pavement. They stored all their belongings there and lived in a tent. Similar sights came up all over the city. The 1950s, 60s, and early 70s. Karachi's bright, throbbing life returned. Despite the first military takeover in 1959, jam sessions, picnics, music, matinee shows of local and foreign films all became part of student life. For grown ups, equally there was nightlife. Karachi got its name, the City of Lights. Mushairas, ghazal, programs, live and recorded music, take your pick, and excellent movies. Students crowded into every matinee show. Later on, a Princess Amina came to the Palace Hotel, and she could really belly dance. Karachi's university, initially crowded into several buildings near the civil hospital, moved far away to what seemed a way out of Karachi. Those of us who were students during that period became used to long treks on a small number of buses. But student life was wonderfully alive, filled with student union activities, debates, shows, and of course, student politics. Late 70s and 80s. Imperceptibly at first, and then with greater force, the country's social fabric altered, as military dictatorships followed one after the other, with a few unsuccessful efforts at democracy in between. While the country diminished, Karachi expanded, but it became more crowded, poorer, and deficient in civil facilities. Laws were imposed that drove home to us the fact that this was no longer a democracy. Violence began appearing on the streets, as we repeatedly saw the miscarriage of justice. The country's easygoing, tolerant way of life was forced into rigid patterns of belief and behavior. The religious and cultural norms now emphasized chauvinistic tendencies, and mind-boggling patterns of behavior were imposed on women. In 1981, a group of us women would have none of it. A routine meeting coincided with the imposition of a law which prescribed severe punishment for adulterers. A woman was to receive 100 lashes, her paramour was to be stoned to death in public. We decided that enough was enough. Dictatorship or not, we came out in force on the roads, demanding justice for the couple. We eventually got it. That meeting and the events that followed gave birth in Karachi to Pakistan's feminist movement. The Women's Action Forum, which has now spread nationwide. Another facet: in the early 80s, the Soviets invaded Afghanistan. Pakistan fought against the Soviets in aid of Afghanistan, supported by the US. In a short while, as Pakistan through Karachi served as the conduit for arms to Afghanistan, it also became the channel for smuggled goods. As political turbulence raged, the country was awash with illicit arms, smuggled goods, and heroin. The results are seriously disturbed and violence ridden cities, endemic terrorism, and a sizable population of drug addicts. There is endless strife, with armed gangs roaming the streets. Simultaneously, the war in Afghanistan and Pakistan has continued. Religious extremism and related violence have increased. The political turbulence continues with increased corruption, poor governance, political upheavals, terrorism, misogyny, huge economic disparities, and consequently growing poverty. Our children have grown in this atmosphere. My daughter was a toddler at the time of the Pakistan Bangladesh War in 1971. At night, when fighter planes roared by overhead, she would pass around cotton wool for her ears to keep the noise out. Today, my little granddaughter spends weekends with me and fears the sounds of gunshots. A psychiatric observed that the trauma we all experience is going to leave immense long term effects. Yet, Karachis have shown admirable resilience. They are determined to reclaim their city. They must, for we have so much energy, so much talent, so much spirit and determination packed in here. Karachi has remained host to people from all over the country. It remains the industrial and commercial hub of Pakistan. Superb art, drama, music, that's making waves, writing of international acclaim, voluntary work for the poor, a determined, talented, and hard-working population. It's all there. If only it can be given a chance to survive and fulfill its human potential. Thousands of us are working to reclaim our city today, tomorrow. Who knows when we will succeed? But we will.